pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Got to turn on my microphone. All right, so the agenda. Does anybody have any proposed changes to the agenda?
Not yet.
Okay, so I'll make a motion then to consider approving today's agenda. Do I have a second? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Okay, and number 5 is the minutes. Consider approving the minutes from the April 25th, 2024 meeting. Does anybody have any comments or changes to the meeting or to the minutes rather? I thought they looked good. Thank you, Carol.
Welcome.
All right. All right, I'll make a motion in order to approve the April 25th, 2024 meeting minutes. And if there was a second, and all in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay. All right. So next on the agenda is conditional use review for 14th Phillips Lane. And I understand that John met with the applicant out on site and we have a revised plan. And did you want to go ahead, John, and give a report out?
Much for the applicant. Do you want to go first, or I can give a little insight of what I did? I met after the last appearance. I met with Miss Beatty of In Focus Design to walk the entire site, review the canopy, review the subject trees, perform measurements of all the large diameter trees, and also looking at trees to be compensated for. Another part of the process was looking at the replacement selection. That is, can you put the plan up on the screen? Oh, people. Yeah.
Down to the bottom.
There you go. Yep. Excellent, thank you. So you can see at the top center of the plan set, there's a list of all the trees to be removed. Rachel and I verified that some of these caliper calculations are incorrect. Rachel did put a note, but going forward, we're gonna need to have the 40, the 36, and the other 36 ash changed to be the correct sizes. They were all under the heritage status. So the 40-inch was a 35.25, the 36 was 33.25, and the ash was a 34.5. And I believe Rachel's going to make those changes. Species selection, obviously, we requested all natives. Rachel has fulfilled that requirement. Other than that, the trees that were deemed dead, dying, disease, or risk related were noted. And the applicant has provided a planting plan with a waiver request in there. Yep.
Would you like to add anything?
No, I mean, just that, you know.
Good catch. On the circumferences. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's terrific.
Right, so yeah, so none of those trees were, so obviously, we'll have those plan changes made. But I think, you know, in talking with John the other day, he said everything else was satisfactory as far as what the replacements were. We did, the landscape architect put in as many replacements as we could do. You know, so I feel like we have a good plan trying to meet the intent of the township's code.
Okay, thank you. Does Anybody on the commission have any comments, questions?
Can I just have your names, please?
Yes, my name is, my name is John Mahoney. I'm the attorney for the applicant, Mahoney,
Thank you.
and this is our engineer.
Yeah, Bryn Schaefer, Brynn Schaffer.
Thank you.
One further note, that I thought the applicant might bring up is if you look on the plan set, underneath the tree replacement calculations, 170 replacement trees are required, due to the designated planting area within the property. 60 proposed trees are going to be planted. There's 110 trees proposed as a fee in lieu of, which, Andy, if you want to explain, that'll go in front of the board.
Well, I do think that, we want to let the board of supervisors make that recommendation of the amounts that are applied to that at this point in time.
So is that the nature of the waiver you were talking about earlier? Right, yeah. There just isn't any sense in
Yes.
requiring a planting of a tree that's not going to see enough sunlight to grow to begin with, I think.
That's correct.
It's a very tough site. By the northwest side property. There,
Right.
by a fence, other side. Out.
Right. We acknowledge that. That's the reason why the waiver is
Okay.
submitted. No sense in proposing to plant trees that you know are not going to make it.
Understood. You okay?
As long as I'm still alive, I'm good.
Rob,
I'm good.
have anything?
No,
Good.
I think I'm good.
All right, Okay.
Sense.
all right. Would, someone like to propose a motion to either recommend approval or recommend denial?
Opposed. Recommend approval, what's the number of Phillips? 14 Phillips, recommended, the landscape plan for 14 Phillips, Newton Square.
All in favor?
Bye.
Aye.
So Luke, real quick, this is an applicant that's coming in front of us tonight, proposing to develop a dwelling on this proposed wooded site. The applicant has to go through a process of reviewing the trees, doing story replacements, coming in front of us, coming in front of Board of Supervisors, planning all the processes in order to get approval to do this project. So there's a process in the township. We just don't let anybody just come and build what they want, how they want. There's strategic review process. Yep.
So what we're really looking for is a favorable recommendation as regards inclusion of the landscape plan in the conditional use application that's to be considered by the Board of Supervisors. And I'm thinking that's probably what was intended with the motion, but I can't be certain. So our request would be, and by the way, I'm looking at a line, it's very small, 170 required replacement trees, 60 proposed trees, 110 proposed as fee in lieu. Please explain that. Is that been converted to dollars and cents, or is that 110 trees are to be
Not by
delivered?
us.
That will be determined by the Board of Supervisors.
Right.
Not determined here.
Good.
There could be $1 and cents tied with
Okay.
it, but the board would set that. There typically is a number that the board uses. But I think that there's multiple things going on with this property, so I don't know how they're gonna land on this.
Yeah, not sure which formula is going to be applied.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So I'm waiting to kind of, as we get closer, the engineer will be making recommendations as well as the arborist. And then the board will make a decision on how that's applied.
Okay.
I think what this board is approving is mostly focusing on understanding how many trees are coming down, how many trees are going to be planted and what trees are going to be planted back. And so that was the focus, in addition to understanding that we can't meet what would be typical land development requirements
Oh, yeah.
on this particular piece of property.
Sure, not possible. So we're going to go through a zoning hearing process with the Board of Supervisors. What the Shade Tree Commission has just said is we approve the landscape plan. I
Yes.
guess that's sufficient for the purpose of the Board of Supervisors
That's
understanding.
our only purview.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
So I can introduce a minute of a meeting of the Shade Tree Commission as an exhibit to the Board of Supervisors.
And my assumption is that the Shade Tree Commission will probably give just a quick a motion of approval, which they did.
Right,
And they would also give just a quick synopsis of, they've reviewed it and then they recommend
right,
And
reviewed
what we
it.
could also do.
an action memo, basically, just like the planning commission.
What we can do also procedurally is, as we do with the planning commission, we can send Ms. Adams a action memo typed up to that effect. And if she finds that it's as they approved it, she'll sign the action memo and we'll forward you a copy of it.
Terrific,
That way you have an actual document.
yes,
And that also then it goes to the board packet so that they see that they've reviewed it and agree.
great. Yeah, I just want to make sure that to the extent we can, the conditional use hearing is conducted expeditiously.
No,
With what-
I know what you're trying to get at. That
Yeah.
makes total sense. We want
Okay.
to get all those ducks in a row
All right,
so that we can move forward.
terrific, thank you.
That will help everybody.
We'll have that done and over to you sometime next week, early next week.
Okay,
Sounds
very
good.
good. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Also, seriously, a nice.
Not like this. Four point five.
Okay, so under new business, we can do a recap of the Arbor Day event. It went really well. I just want to say thank you guys to everyone who participated in that. I think it went really well. We had about 50 people turn out. We planted 35 trees along the riparian stream there on Fox's Run. That's what it's called, I think.
Yeah.
And great participation by Dave. So thank you, of course, to our Public Works folks who helped out and thank you. Gosh, I'm really glad you brought your equipment to dig those holes because that would have been a bear. There's a lot of asphalt around there. It wasn't easy digging, and we really had a lesson learned that we probably need to teach some of our younger volunteers how to actually use a shovel. It was really enlightening. I'll just put it that way. And I don't know, Carol, did you want to add to that?
Well, we did I did a summer, actually, I called it a recap too.
Yep.
Of Arbor Day that went into that is in
Yes,
the
thank you.
e-newsletter.
Yes.
And your article got into the e-newsletter, so we'll figure out, I
Yep.
forget what's coming up next month as far as e-newsletters, but
Yeah.
yes, that was a good.
Do we know, Carol, who's up next, the next month?
It was,
If somebody wants to bail, I enjoy doing it, so.
I'll find out to speak, hopefully before we
I
leave the
think we
meeting.
talked about it at the last meeting. In fact, I was gonna ask.
Yeah, sure, John. It's me. You can do mine.
Is it you?
But, oh, and also I'm being remiss. So the Arbor Day was, our event was very successful because the EAC, particularly Cindy Mahalo, really did a fantastic job with wrangling all the volunteers. And because that is volunteer coordination is not my strong suit. And so she picked up the mantle to do that. So it was a nice collaborative event with EAC as well. We couldn't have done it without them. So thank you. All right.
So there is the next topic.
Yeah, I don't know what the next topic is.
All right. So one of these papers here someplace. We'll come back to that.
Okay. Yeah, I was just trying to see if I had it on here.
No, I had my little,
So I think the topic we were gonna do like tree of the month or something like that.
I did that one already.
Did that one already? Deer protection? Native trees, find a heritage tree, not plant a tree.
Deer protection is kind of a boring one. That'd be a fall, that would be a good, August, because obviously deer protection is required in September, October, November, so.
Okay.
We know who's up? Or,
not
No,
yet.
we're gonna have to come back to that.
We're coming back to that as soon as I find the paperwork.
All right. All right, we'll move on then. All right, so let's talk about considering the Public Works request to plant for Cornus, stellar pink, Rutgan Dogwoods, Rutgan, is that right?
Rutgers, it should be Rutgers.
Rutgers Dogwoods
Unless they
and
changed
6
them.
Prunus Virginia and chokecherrys along Bishop Hollow Trail where 1 or 2 rows of declining pine trees need to be removed. Okay. All right, so we have in our packet, we have some of the locations of where they would go.
Yeah, I just make note as you're looking at this, the pine trees have actually already been removed. They were in a situation where they had to be done. And so
Okay.
they were taken out.
How big were they?
I don't recall, they were
They were probably
probably
14, 18 inches. Yeah, they weren't big. They were.
Okay,
very small.
okay.
George had provided a map.
So, I think it's fine. I don't really have any comments or concerns. You guys?
The only thing I have is like the neighbors for the block of like the township yard being blocked in the wintertime. I mean, I don't know if that was in consideration. I know there's pines on the other side, but they're limbed very high, it seems to be. I mean,
Back row of evergreen.
right, but they're kind of limbed high, you can see. I understand that, but originally when they were planted, that was the block, so the neighbors, the adjoining neighborhood doesn't see where these
Yeah.
trees. Although I think it's great, plant them, that's fine, but there will be no winter blockage with them. In the summer, yeah, there will be when they're full, which is no problem and they're beautiful when they bloom and everything like that, but that's the only, I don't know what the original plan was when that building was put up and those buildings were put up, if it was.
From the back. Lower set of.
Well, I think what Rob is saying, we have an opportunity here maybe to use maybe.
But what I'm saying is originally the pines were planted there for screening, which obviously white pines lose their bottom branches for whatever reason. To block the township, which if we're going by the original intent, there should be evergreens back in there to block the township from the neighboring neighborhood. Correct? I mean, it's,
I think this is starting to head up the hill. As you're walking up, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
And so I think the goal was one, I mean, obviously we want to continue to do that. I mean, I think we can do some mixed things. I think we can do that by potentially taking even in the fencing and doing some slats. I mean, I think there's some other possible ways to help block some of that. If we think that the trees will
This is
do.
just one short swap, Rob. Yeah, there's a whole other
I understand that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that
No, I think you're. I
you
think you're
took
right,
out
Dean,
pines, you're
saying-
putting in deciduous trees instead of evergreens.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That's a good point.
I mean, whatever, I mean, the other was 2 rows of white pines, which ones obviously had to be taken out. I mean, that's only my concern. I mean, I don't have to look at them, so.
Just real quick, guard, change. Porch. Is requesting that. 5 trees that we have. Over there. Those that we have. There, 5 species that like and we generate the tags. Also, go to the website.
That's what he told me to.
No.
Maybe Rob or Dan would like to do that?
Yeah, so what I think what George is looking for is 2 things. One is the list of the 5 trees that you want to pick, that you want to start with, because I think we're doing 100 tags, if I recall. And so there'll be those trees, 5 different species. And then what you would like to see said about each of those species so that he can build the web pages.
SD knows the whole list of everything that's in there.
So you can just walk up there, I can meet you there at the beginning of next week, we'll pick out 5 trees, get that list to George. Tell George what we want to see on the little plaques, and then George will build it. We'll pick.
Now, those tags, are they J-Tree budget that we requested for
This
tags?
is,
or
do you
is it-
remember,
The grant.
this, remember when we
The
did the
grant,
grant several,
Last month.
was it last month?
It was in
Month
last
before?
month's budget.
Yeah.
Last month's minutes, yes.
So there was all about getting this grant. I forget if it was $1,000 or $500 or whatever it was. And so there's a number of tags that he can get for the $1. But we still have to build the website. And so we just need the information for the 5 trees that we want to do, and then what we want on the tags themselves. And he'll get the tags ordered and get it ready so we can start posting them.
And so Dan, maybe we can all talk about what we want as the content about the trees. And do you want it to be, how informational? Do you want it just short, like a paragraph? Because people aren't gonna be like,
I'll ask George what the character.
Okay.
Limit is on it.
Because it's on the website, I think you could do 2 things. I think you could do something, because it's going to refer people to that location. I think in my mind, you would have something that's pretty quick, that is maybe even in a chart format. You know, talk about how high it would grow, you know, like from this size to this size. The width, those kind of things. And then some basic information about the tree, you know, in a paragraph format. And then if you wanted to put anything else in it, you can write a whole nother, you can fill a whole page if you want to. I mean, there's plenty of room on the website. But I think you got to remember that most people are going to show, you know, the whole thing we talked about is it needs to be something simple. You know, people are going to read it walking by. I would do everything that you could read pretty much in a, you know, if I flip my phone 2 pages and I'm looking at something, that's more than what most do. So I would try to do what I can fit in about 1 page. If you did a chart that was 1 page and then a quick write-up on the second page, that would be fine, but I wouldn't do much more than that.
I think it'd be kind of cool to have like a fun fact. You know, it's something that's catchy that'll.
Yeah.
Whatever. If there is a fun fact about whatever trees you guys pick out. Okay,
Okay, back to, if we can back
So
up
we
to
gotta
the
go-
newsletter. Oh,
well, no,
sorry.
well, hold on, let's finish.
Don't enter 7.3, don't we?
Yeah, we have to consider approving, so I'll make a motion to recommend approval of Public Works request to plant the deciduous trees as proposed along Bishop Hollow Trail where the pine trees were removed. I have a
Second.
second by Carol. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion passes. And just to amend that, just to clarify that Dan will be meeting with John to go out on site to pick the 5 species, and then we'll come up with content that'll go to the website. That would include a chart with some of just the specifics and the facts about the tree, and then maybe add some little fun fact to make it interesting. And a picture too of what, what's the deadline? Okay. So like so next week's a holiday, if we say maybe by the end of the first weekend, maybe the first week in June, is that?
Obviously, he's wanting to get the order in, but you know, as soon as, if you know the 5 trees and what the sign is, if we can get that done first, because we have to place the order and then figure out what you're going to put on the webpage next, that would be helpful.
Yeah, that's good. That's a great plan. Then you can get out there Tuesday.
Yes.
We'll get the list over to everybody, send it to George. He can start building it, and then we'll get the.
Okay.
Luke, if you just want to move to that table right there, that's perfect.
Hey, John.
John, you just need me to just get the names of the trees and then.
Right.
Verbiage.
Yeah.
You live right there?
Yeah, right.
Oh, your backyard. No.
All right,
Never mind.
excellent. All right. And I'll just let the record show that John Rice is now in attendance.
At about 5:30.
All right, thanks, John. Okay. All right. Okay, so we want to go back to the June newsletter since you found your spreadsheet.
I found my spreadsheet, which makes June absolutely open. So we don't have a person. The topic said heritage trees, but do we want to do heritage?
No.
Trees? It might be good. Well, we could either do one of the ones we haven't done yet, like basic tree care 101, trees and erosion. Maybe something just about native trees, a general thing about native trees, or a description of street trees. But we don't know the measurement for street trees yet.
Yeah, I wouldn't go there either.
You won't go there either. Okay.
I would say either something with the benefits of trees, like.
Yeah, I
you
did
know-
something about, I did one something like that
Oh,
in
yeah,
March.
that's right, that's right.
Mr. Rice, would you like to take this one? The, like I said, simple.
Well, we did that already, so let's do,
Oh, now just
oh, yeah,
Okay.
let's focus, maybe the benefit would be is like what some of the ecosystem services that trees provide, like how they help to ameliorate stormwater runoff and provide clean air and water, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And habitat, of course.
All right.
All right, so John's gonna do that.
I did. So
All right, and when does John have to have that to the article written and to,
Well, if he writes the article, then if he gets it back to me, I haven't gotten from Heather yet the deadline of when it's due. Last month it was due something like the 8th of the month, somewhere
Okay.
between the 8th and the 12th, so I'll have to find out exactly.
so if you could, what do you want to just say, get it to you by what, like Wednesday of next week? Is that like before the end of the, what is the?
So I think that it'll be released somewhere around the 11th, which means
Is this a print one or is this just a?
they're all electronic now. So it'll be released somewhere around hopefully around the 11th, although it's running a little bit behind. So I would suspect
By June 7th, I
yeah,
guess.
that would be about right.
So So to you, Carol, by June 7th,
Yes.
or, okay, or earlier, right?
And what's the title of it?
Well, you can title it whatever you want. You're
This
going
is-
on benefits of trees.
Benefits of shade trees.
Yeah, you can make it a catchier title than that if you want. You can be creative.
That's it.
It's in an electronic newsletter, so you don't want to be, too wordy.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you want to just keep it to maybe a half page at best, like so three paragraphs maybe.
Yep.
Okay, I'm a little confused. Is it, am I writing about the cornice and the?
No,
cornice?
no,
No.
no,
Oh.
any shade tree.
Oh, any shape, oh, it's,
Trees.
okay, any shade tree.
Trees
Just
in
the
general.
benefit of shade trees, period. Right,
You want me to name shade trees?
you can give an example, but I wouldn't have an exhaustive list. Just
Well, no,
kind of,
And
just say,
hand that down. That was,
that's
like,
kind
that
of,
was one from last year.
Oh,
So it's just
so
a
that just
short,
gives you an idea.
just something short and sweet.
And you kept that in your back pocket for what reason?
I keep them in my bag
Yeah.
for all sorts of reasons.
Yes.
can I borrow this one?
Yes, as long as I get it back. I only have
Okay.
one of each. All right,
I'll even give you.
So you're gonna send to
Okay.
Carol
Second.
by,
and I will be bugging you every 2 days to make sure that neither of us forgets.
That's good for you. That's good.
That's good, okay.
okay. All right, old business. Well, isn't that sort of like the e-newsletter, similar to what we're doing for the newsletter?
Pretty much, that's just, yep.
So we can use either. or.
7.2 and 8.1 seem to be the same.
Okay. All right, so moving on, then discussion regarding the tree ordinance update. Okay,
Staff is working on a draft. ordinance. Folks, we are, we've met at staff level and we're trying to take into consideration the committee's concerns with regard to the role that you play in land development and obviously public land and street trees or shade trees. So we are working on that. We had one meeting already. We have another meeting scheduled at staff level, I believe sometime one day next week. And hopefully we'll have that draft, maybe even by the next meeting for distribution.
for us to review again?
Sure.
Or is that
Yeah,
what
you would
it-
get a look at that and share your comments. I guess what, from my perspective, I'm hoping is to get that draft out, submit it to obviously Mr. Secor, our attorney, as well as once staff agrees, once we meet at staff level and we agree to what that should say, how it should read, get it out to everyone, your committee, the board of supervisors, and also township solicitor for all your reviews to come to one clear and concise final draft that would get approved, final approval for adoption.
Okay. So we will have another opportunity then to provide comments on
Absolutely.
that draft and have that be considered as well. Okay.
Correct.
Right, great. Thank you, Andy. And so do we have a target for having it kind of completed or done or approved or actually go to the Board of Supervisors for approval? Do we have a target?
I think the target is hopefully to have it to you at your June meeting. And then from there, to go beyond that, where the next step is, will be dependent on how many additional changes need to be made.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Andy. Okay, so next on the agenda is a discussion and possible action to authorize the commission, the Shade Tree Commission, to use funds to help support the fall tree planting program that we're doing collaboratively with the EAC. So, did you want to give an update on our meeting that we had with the EAC, or did you want me?
Oh, I can start
Okay.
it and you can add some
Okay.
things if you'd like.
Sounds great.
So we've, Trish and I have had 2 Zoom meetings with Cindy and Sheila from EAC, where we talked about everything from soup to nuts, having to deal with the tree giveaway program. And so at the moment, it comes down to Trish, the shade tree, because it's trees, we're sort of gonna take point on this. I've been in conversation with George already, talking about tree selection and nurseries and what the cost is going to be. And we're gonna figure that out, and that will determine how many trees we'll be able to give away. And then we still have to figure out how we go about actually inviting people to apply for these trees. I'm not sure quite how this works. But George was saying that there is somebody that works with the watershed committee or something in that whole area, leading from like the TD Bank all the way down towards Brookside Park. And that he would be very interested in working with us to try to help, get this thing sort of all coordinated. He's very fascinated by this, and he's been on this commission for a long time. And his name's Marty.
So it's, he's on the, Darby Creek watershed. So that's what he's tied to. So that's his areas. And I think that, as I understand it, they're looking at potentially doing a project in what we would consider the lower St. Albans area, which is, as you described, where the TD Bank going out to Brookside Park towards Route 3. So you're kind of looking at winding way to Route 3 that would involve possibly Brookside, or I think it's Beechwood, or
Things having to do with, trees, which would help with the MS4.
yes, that's correct.
Now, one of the questions that I had was, if we do a giveaway to, people that live along this area,
Mhm.
do we have to? Oh, sorry. Do we have to designate that they have to be street trees?
Oh, I absolutely think we have to designate that they be street trees.
Okay.
I mean, I think the whole goal is to create a canopy that would help shade the roadway. I mean, I think that's the benefit of that in what you'd be aiming for.
Okay. Yeah, so,
So just to kind of give you an idea, George and I talked about this today, a little bit of like what we would see potentially happening. I would see, like, if you pick an area, and you work with Marty Milligan, and let's say that area, I would focus on several streets. I would try not to do the whole area unless you think you have enough trees to do the whole area. I don't know how many trees we're going to end up being able to do with the money that we have, with all that has to be done. I would also look at having some skin in the game from the homeowners, just to make sure that, that they're making some level of commitment to the project. And then it's because there is, they got to plant them, they got to water them, there's a lot that has to be done. But then we would specifically target that neighborhood with mailings and things like that to, maybe a postcard and then follow it up with a letter, kind of way, if that's what you're wanting to do.
yeah, we have a lot of things that have to be worked out yet. Trish, any additions?
Well, I just wanted to clarify. So that was one of the questions that we had, was like, well, how are we going to get the word out? And so the township would be willing to send out a postcard to the homeowners in the areas that we're targeting, see what kind of response that we get, and then And then follow up with a letter or maybe expand it if we don't get a lot of,
Yeah.
is that the
Yeah,
idea?
I think the whole idea that we saw it is that the benefit of street trees in an area, it would be most beneficial if we could get the highest number of participation possible in an area, if we take too big of an area and you get 100 trees planted around town, you're probably not making a big dent in the problem of the heat and all that comes off of a road. If you take and focus on one neighborhood, you have a chance to make a dent in that neighborhood. And that was our concept that he and I had talked about. And when you guys started talking about this, we started trying to say what would make sense. So yes, we would do that, maybe create a sign up page on the website so that, we mail out a card, we put a QR code on it and they can scan the QR code, go right in and fill out a thing that they're interested. We talked about, there's a cost, for the potentially like a watering bag and stakes and potentially screening around the tree. Get them to buy into some part of that expense and whatever that tree costs, we're gonna cover a big portion of that tree's cost, but maybe each homeowner's putting in $40 or $30 or whatever that is per tree. Just so that they have an incentive to go out and keep it watered. And, I didn't, on that day when it needs to be taken care of, I'm more likely to do it if I put a couple bucks out myself. So that kind of stuff,
So we were talking about maybe targeting like around Tyson Road or Overbrook Drive. Do you have a preference of where you would specifically like us to target? We were looking at the areas according to the MS4 that were some of the I forgot what was on that figure that Sheila shared. Forgot what they were called. They were hot spots or something. They
Yeah.
were highlighted in red or something like that, that they were targeting.
Oh, I think that area that was highlighted in red was one of the areas that we were looking at doing stream restoration.
Maybe. that
Yeah.
was it.
I don't know that you have to tie it back to our stream restoration area.
Okay.
I think, if I were you, I would take any one of those areas. The advantage of doing the lower St. Albans, which is the
Mhm.
Beechwood and Ashley, Brookside, was it Ridgefield? I'm missing something there, but that area that's the area that Marty Milligan lives in, and he knows a high number of people, and since it's the first time out,
Okay.
you probably can get more support. Sheila lives in that area. You're probably going to pick up people who will be willing to go knock on doors and things
Mhm.
like that to help you get the word out. That's the reason why I would pick that area.
Okay.
I think if it's successful, I could see doing this multiple years,
Mhm.
working on this and moving forward. But I think you want a very strong success rate
Mhm.
the first time so that you understand like what's all involved to get there. And then you would know how to build, you probably need some neighborhood captains to help.
Right, so
do
that's,
this and
yeah,
things
that's
like
what I was just gonna kind of talk about what we were, because all those things that you just mentioned, we discussed because we were concerned about that too. It's like, we definitely want a commitment from the homeowners and to make sure they're taking care of the trees. And so we had talked about establishing like street captains, so there would be like one homeowner or two homeowners that would serve in that role to like just routinely go down the street and see how the health is of new trees. We also talked about having some sort of requirement to have the homeowners, because the homeowners are gonna be planting the trees, right? So there should be some level of instruction maybe for people that haven't planted trees before to make sure that they're planted right. And there was some discussion about having them go through tree tender training, and we said that's just too much of a commitment. And so we had talked about maybe just doing a demo, just like maybe having, like Rob or Dan or, one of our professionals here on our committee or Carol, to do a demo of how to plant a tree and just run through some of the requirements, or maybe couple that with a handout that we give to them about how to properly care for trees and things like that, and other resources that they can go to. We didn't land, I don't know how that sounds to you.
Well, and I think there's a couple of ways you could go at that. I mean, I think that's a good idea. I think that if you have a certain day that you're giving them away, and I might do like that on a
Right.
Friday afternoon. And then on Saturday, have a neighborhood planning day. And, we have some tree tenders in the township, where we have some landscapers, and see if we can't get folks out there. And not that they're there to do it for it, but they're there to help answer questions, make sure it's being done right. And, just kind of walking the neighborhood, seeing, and encouraging. If there's help needed, then we give some help and get that done. But that's how I would
Okay.
kind of see it that first year. How much hands-on do we need and how much hands-on don't we need? And, the first year probably go more with the idea that hopefully we don't have to do that every year, but you're right. I mean, you give me a tree to plant, I'm probably not going to do it right. I might get it close, but, somebody giving me a little bit of guidance would be helpful.
Mhm.
And you give me a sheet, that'll help me pretty much, but there'd be some people who would look at it and still not know. And so somebody there kind of saying, yeah, you need to do this, or you need to do that, or I think it helps.
And I really like the idea of doing it collectively on, do the tree giveaway on a Friday and then the next day. Because the other thing that Sheila had brought up was a really good point, is that there might be a homeowner with a disability or an elderly person who just physically is unable to plant a
Yep.
tree. So maybe have some volunteers on hand that we could tap into to help folks do that as well. And so if we're patrolling and doing that, that would be easier for us to do as well.
That'd be a good Boy Scout project.
Maybe.
Could be, but I mean, you'd have to get.
It would have to be the
Scouts that do
older.
what they would-
it would-
What size trees are you talking about? Are you talking whips or are you
No.
talking
No, not whips.
real
Containers.
trees?
Containers. Real trees.
I mean, you're talking a couple inch caliber trees, like 2-inch calibers,
I'm
two
talking
and
a
a half.
5-foot tree in a pot.
We're probably gonna try to get as many as we can. As big as we can. We just don't know what's available and what the cost is going to be, and we only have a certain amount of budget. So,
I mean, the object is, if you want trees, you wait for fall time and you talk to one of these big nurseries, they want to clear inventory. They have great deals on shade trees, which, I mean, 70-80% off that they want to get rid of, because they do not want to bank them in, they do not want to keep them, they got to order new stock the following year, they do not want it.
Yeah.
Well, this is a fall giveaway.
mhm.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what you do. It's gotta be probably late fall that you do this, but that's fine. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, it's talking to the big nurseries and they will dump inventory. Especially, I don't know I mean, if you talk to the right manager, I'm sure if it's going to a good thing that they can work deals out.
We were shooting for October 12th.
Yeah, it's still a little early.
But that was because there's a lot of other things going on in the township, and we didn't want to
Yeah.
compete with some of those other things.
Another thing you gotta worry about too is underground services. A lot of this stuff, you're gonna have to call PA one call and have everything marked out before ahead of time.
Yep. I mean, there's a lot to be
4 or
done.
5 days, if you're digging anything, just because, obviously any Verizon wire or anything is only buried an inch under the ground. Not that those neighborhoods have below ground services. I mean, they have obviously gas and stuff. I guess there's gas back in there with water services and mostly electric and utilities are above ground, but except for gas and electric and water.
So that's why we would need people to sign up well ahead of time.
Yes.
So are we gonna require the homeowner to do that, or is that something that we could do in bulk?
Well, I think it depends on, I think we need to find out who the homeowners are.
Right.
And, you know, I mean, the closer that you have them in proximity to one another, we potentially could say, would you go out and mark on this street from here to here? Mark on this street from here to here. And we could put that in and do that.
I mean, I don't know if the
It
township,
almost makes more sense to do block to block.
Yep.
And.
I mean, if you have one
Close to the
generator,
limit.
you do the whole street, that, I mean, PA one call go out there, they'll mark. In one day, they'll mark everything you want, as long as you have it PA one and marked in white where the tree's gonna go, they'll mark where the services are, you know? So it's one of those things, but that's gonna have to be done ahead of time.
Yep.
But
I see it being done twice, to be honest with you. I see us going out once the homeowner says they want to do it, get the spots, get it marked, call PA one call, have them come out, make sure that we don't have an issue, and then right before we're going to go back and do the plannings, do it again, because you know, if a homeowner comes in and the line goes right through that spot and they can't, we need to know that ahead of time before we make the commitment.
But if you target it heavily between, block to block, you're gonna get a higher success rate. And you get better control over that first year's attempt,
Mhm.
right? Spread it out, you're not gonna get the success rate that you have, and you're not gonna meet the goal of pooling the street and the neighborhood. So I mean, just my opinion, I think the more you target it, especially on this first attempt, and if it's successful, I think it grows like wild, it can grow like
Yeah,
wild.
I mean, I don't have a problem like on a Saturday, donate my time to dig holes for these people if they want a shade tree in their house, you know what I mean? At
Mhm.
their house, you know? I mean, obviously, there's like, if you're doing, like you said, the water bags and stuff like that, that's a cost, you know, or whatever like that, but if we can front most of the money, I'm sure people will want to do it, you know?
Would we even need water bags if we're doing it towards the end of October?
Yes.
I mean, you gotta water them in, but after that,
It's hit or miss. I mean, if they have them, you use them, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it'd be better said than sorry. I mean, so our budget that I believe that we have is somewhere around $7,700. So I think that's right. 7,795, I think is what we had in our budget.
I think that's good.
And so that's what we're working with. And so, I mean, and this is why, because we know it's going to be a lot of work, and that's why we're starting now. And so for what do you all need from the township perspective? Do you need us to write up like a proposal or something like that?
Yeah,
of
I
what
mean,
we're
I think
planning
that,
to
I think
do?
the first thing that I would think we need to do is for you guys to, one, if you want to work with Marty, you know, if you make that decision, then I would suggest, you know, at one of your meetings, you know, maybe your next meeting, if you don't have a lot on your agenda, I know you like to go out and do trees. But maybe on your way, you stop by that neighborhood and walk it and say, or beforehand, a couple of you go over and, you know, I think you ride around a neighborhood, you're gonna say, this neighborhood needs it. This neighborhood doesn't need it as much. If we picked up from here and went this direction, that would really help. I mean, you guys are smart folks, you know, you're gonna see this right away. And that's what I would do. And I would kind of lay out on a map and I would say, we're gonna target, you know, assuming, I know you have to figure out the number, what we think it's gonna cost, but assuming that you're gonna get 100 trees, I'm just picking a number. Not every house is gonna participate. Some houses would take 2, some houses will take none. And so, you know, do I need 100 houses to do 100 trees?
Mhm.
Maybe, you know, and I would target that and I would start the process and I would say, we're gonna target this neighborhood. Let's get a mailing out in August, you know, and get people to commit. Work on what the cost is gonna be ahead of time between now and then. We, you know, as much as possible, understanding that we may get a better deal on the trees as we get nearer. But like, what, understand, like, if we're gonna say that you're gonna do bags, you're gonna do stakes, you're gonna do
Fire.
Protection.
Protection, deer protection. I can't think of what it's called right now, but if you're gonna do all of those things, I would have all of that figured out ahead of time. Here's what we need. And if doing that, this is what we think each thing's gonna cost. Here's how much money our budget is. We want to do 100 trees. So that means we're saying that each person's kicking in X number of dollars to make that work, and we're gonna go do it. And I don't think it's a problem asking people to give something into the process, because I think that, you know, if we say we're underwriting half, 3/4 of the tree cost, you're committing to this, or, you know, we're asking you to pay this, you know, in the process. I think it's still fair, and people, and, you know, I would be leading up to that with every one of your articles. I would have some articles that you do that you send to that neighborhood in particular. I mean, that's the kind of thing that I would work on.
All right, that sounds good. And then, so walk me through the process. So we'll get what do you need? Do we need to put anything, I guess, in writing to go to the Board of Supervisors for?
Well, I
approval?
do think we need something to go in writing, but I think I would want to have my neighborhood picked.
Okay,
Like I would want to be able to say our target neighborhood is X.
Okay.
We're going to do these streets, we're going to target these streets, and why we're targeting those streets. Here's what we want to do. We have the funding in the budget to do this. Here's what we're asking them to participate with, you know, their participation costs. Here's how we're going to do the project. Because they need, you know, they need to know that, because
Right.
we're going to be targeting a very specific area.
okay. And then how would people contribute whatever contribution fee, we'll call it, or whatever? I mean, did they just write a check, or they come into the township, or is that something we can collect when they pick up the trees, or you have that done before?
I think I mean, I think we could do it a couple different ways.
Okay.
I don't have any way right now to take
Okay.
payments online specifically for that.
Okay,
But if somebody called, we could handle it over the phone.
okay,
If somebody brought a check to the day they picked up the tree and this, you know, and the materials, I think we could handle it that way as
Okay.
well. I could have somebody from the finance department out there at that time. You know, set it up that it's a 2 or 3 hour pickup time on a Friday afternoon, early evening,
okay,
you know. I think there's ways to do it.
I think if you're doing a tree planting and it's through like the township, I think you're better off, like, if we have those trees, we take them to the site and drop them off. And if it's gonna be a planting day the next day, you put them there the night before and you're ready to go the next day to do it. You know, be ahead of the game.
Yeah.
Don't let them pick them up and take them, because their handling of them, you know what I'm saying? If we're given the tree, we handle it until it's in the ground, basically, if we're gonna do it. I mean, that's my recommendation.
And I'm okay with that. I mean, we have the flatbed trailer. I think we could load.
I mean, obviously, you know, that's if it's like you're doing one street, or like
Yeah,
around
it would-
Brookside, you're doing Ridgefield, Brookside, in there, that area, it's easy. You go around, you drop them off, you know.
I'm okay with that too.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
I like that, we drop off. Because that was one thing we were struggling to, is like, well, where's gonna be the pickup location? It's a lot of trees, where we storing the trees, blah, 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 so, and
We
that's,
offered to dig the hole
Oh,
at
definitely.
first thing.
Yeah.
yes,
You
absolutely.
dig the holes, no matter, if you make it a tree planting thing, you do it on a Saturday and you have the holes dug, you know what I mean?
Mhm. Okay, I like that. All right, well, that sounds like a really good plan. Okay. All right,
It entices the people to do it more than,
absolutely.
like, I have to put a lot of labor into it. Yeah, the township's kind of basically, except for $40, planting a tree in my house, you know?
Yep.
Yeah, that's a real deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Well, do we need to take any action at this point, since we really don't have anything to?
I think the action that you need to take, and not that it needs to be a voting action, I think that you just need to make sure that whoever from your committee is taking the next step to get your neighborhood selected,
Mhm.
and working with George to start getting pricing on stakes and, you know, all the stuff that is probably not going to change in price, right? You may get a better price on trees, like you said, by ordering them later in the year, you know, and do we do better by, you know, you're thinking like November? When you say late fall, when you say your number?
Yeah, they have inventory. Obviously, you want them all to be natives.
Yeah,
So, I mean, it's,
It might be limited.
it might be limited, but it's what they have, out of like site one has a huge inventory between oaks there, and whatever, and then other guys I know that, you can call them and say, yeah, I have this available, I want to get it. It's all what, you start now and start asking now.
yep.
This is what we're doing. Our township's doing a planning plan. This
Can
is
you-
what we want to do, this is our price range we want to pay. This is a size tree we want to pay, say, $150 for this tree or less if we
Yeah.
could. What can we get? They have to
Can
be
you do that?
natives. Yeah. I
Can you
do
reach
that.
out and do
Yeah, that's
that?
no problem.
So if you take that on, that will help a tremendous.
Yeah,
amount.
I mean, that's no problem at all. That's easy to do, a couple
Yeah.
phone calls, you know what I mean?
So if we can start working on that and then start working on like the cost of, like what, can we get a deal on, if we're ordering 150 bags or whatever, I don't, I don't know. how
Like,
many-
I would say you gear more towards get Marty to ask around his
Yeah.
neighborhood, what the people's, get a general idea of what, you might only want to do 50 trees, or you
Yeah.
might only want to do 30 trees, and once people see it and what it looks like, promote that. Then next year you might want to do more.
Yep,
You might want to go from 30 to 50. Don't try to do a grand
What did
thing.
you say the budget was?
$7,795.
And I would say gear towards a bigger tree than just a smaller tree, because people will see the impact of that right away in front of their house than having something in a
So
5 gallon.
at $150 a tree, we're pretty limited.
Yeah, you're talking, I mean, at $200 per tree, which you can get I'm sure you can get many trees for $200 if you're buying bulk. You're talking 37 trees, you know what I mean? There, that number,
yeah,
that's $7,500 right there,
yep.
basically.
I'm okay with that too. I guess it's gonna be.
You might get them cheaper, they might say, yeah, we can get you this or that or whatever,
Yeah.
we'll get you a 2-inch caliber tree at this, but nurseries are funny about what they want to sell, when they want to sell it. Because the tree that's in the ground one more year produces more revenue for them than, you know what I mean? They don't like to dig real small. The nurseries that do it in pots, yeah, the pot's the pot, but like a field grown thing, they don't want them too big, but they don't want them too small.
Well, we're
To
talking
sell.
pots though.
Well, maybe,
Not
who
pot-
knows? See
not
see what's
B&B.
available. I mean, a B and
If
B
it's a-
2-inch tree is a 24-inch caliber ball, which probably weighs in the neighborhood, if it's wet, maybe 300 pounds,
We don't want to go that big.
Well, I mean, if there's assistant there to help do it, yeah.
I think that's gonna, to me, it's, if we only get a few homeowners, I would say, let's get more substantive trees. It's kind of this chicken and egg thing. I don't know if we're gonna get a ton of people
Well,
with a
that's why
lot
I'm
of
saying,
interest.
I think if
get
you-
Marty, get a game plan ahead of time.
Okay,
Like I said, it might only be 15 trees the first time.
Yeah.
And then everybody's like, man, that's a good deal. I want a tree in front of my house. And then it may be 20. This is an ongoing thing. You want to, get shade trees back in. It's, the oak's been cut down, the maples, whatever, along these back streets,
I mean, that's the idea. And so, you don't have to do huge. I was doing the number I was saying based on the number that was given to me by somebody. But I think what Rob is saying is very good in that,
Mhm.
Once you have a
target,
head count-
huh?
Once you have a head count, then you can go.
Yeah.
and decide.
Target your area and figure it
Right.
out, get
Okay.
people that are committed. And then make a decision to move forward. But I think you need some numbers first to make sure
Right.
that $40 works and then do what you need to do.
Okay,
And look, wouldn't it be great to have 100 people wanting to do it, but we can only do 50? Or wouldn't it be great to have even
And
50
you-
people
and you
wanting
put
and
it-
we only could do 30?
And you,
Because that's
the
what the
budget
numbers
you
are.
do now, you put in the budget for next year, and
Yeah.
maybe you want to do like Arbor Day next year, do this along street trees
Yeah.
and do it.
mhm.
For Arbor Day, that's what you do.
Yep,
Plant the street trees instead of doing like in the parks or something, you
Yep.
do a tree planting along the streets or something, because the money should be available by then, and then you could order ahead of time what trees you wanted, because you would know, and then go from there.
yep.
It's
Okay,
a good plan. Yep. I like it. I think it sounds like a good plan. Thanks, Rob. Okay. All right, so, the Marty guy, who has his contact? Was that-
George does.
Okay, so can you get with George then? To get his contact information and if you want to reach out to him, great, or I can, it doesn't matter. It's up.
We'll figure that one out.
Okay,
yeah.
all right. So that's George. Okay, that sounds great. All right, and then we're meeting again with the EAC in 2 weeks, I think it was.
Can't remember.
I think it's 2 weeks.
Yes, something like that.
All right. Okay, well, that sounds good. Okay, I think we have a game plan. Thank you for your input. All right, since we have no public, we don't have, oh, you have
We
any
have no-
comments? Okay, all right, and do we have any comments from the commission?
I got a question for Andy.
He's
What's
in
the-
sidebar.
He's in sidebar.
We'll just stare and see if we just don't talk. We
He
don't
heard.
stare.
He heard me. Andy, I know you're like short-staffed. What? Like dead ash trees in the township that are like falling in the roadway, like down the street from Trish, on the
I-
corner there.
Don't get me in trouble with my neighbor.
I don't know of the trees that you're speaking of.
I
but
mean,
I'm
they
sure
are bad. They're like. With the traffic that backs up there, someone's gonna get killed.
Okay.
I mean, they're getting to the point. I went down there last night. The traffic was all backed up. I came back and there was a big limb laying off those ash trees in the roadway. They're starting to break apart. I mean, with the traffic that backs up there on every night,
Where are we talking?
Bradyville and Bishop Hall Road, right there on the
Yep,
point.
right in that corner?
Yeah, and then there's another tree right there, the opposite corner that's all hollow, sitting there ready to go down and crush somebody. It's sitting at the
Okay.
light.
Well,
I mean, they're sitting at the, I mean, the traffic backs up there so bad. I mean, you get a little storm or something, the top breaks out, and it's gonna kill somebody.
Yep.
I mean, it's getting to the point that the ash trees are getting really, really brittle and something's gotta be done about them.
so
know.
if you will, please, anytime you see that,
Oh, I do, yeah, I mean.
just
yeah.
make sure you notify Andy's department so that we can.
I
take
mean, I
action.
know it's not us through the Shade Tree Commission, it's just me as a,
No, but
being in the business, seeing, you know.
any place where you see that, particularly if it's close to the roadway, because
Yeah.
it may officially be a shade tree, you
Right.
know, if it's in the right of way, but let us
Well, they're
know.
ashes usually,
Yeah,
so
but,
they wouldn't be under our purview.
well, I mean, ashes, you know, it's not under your purview in that they don't have to come before you to take them down. But it is in your purview. If it needs to be taken down, you need to tell us and we need to go after
Right.
it.
We'll take a look at it.
We'll do that. Any place where you see that, let us
Yeah, I
know.
mean, they're just getting bad. I mean, there's
Yeah.
certain places in the township that are just,
Yeah.
you know, you sit there and like, I was sitting there last night, sitting there at the stop sign. I'm like, man, then I came by and there was a big limb laying in.
That's not good.
Does the
No.
township have control on private property?
We don't have control on private property in that I can't just go arbitrarily do something, but I can put them on notice. And if they don't take action, then Andy can actually take it as a property maintenance and move forward.
The street tree, you have to
If
tell.
it's a street tree, we have
Well,
a
it has
lot more power.
potential of overhanging the right of way or
Yep.
falling in, it's pretty much a
Yep.
street tree.
Yep. That's why I'm saying we do have, even though it's an ash tree, we do have authority.
Right.
You have authority. We can make them take action, and if they don't take action, we can take action and I can lien the property.
Yeah, they have a lot of, there's like, how many, like 5?
Even if they got the heads out of some of them, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? There you go, Dan, put your card in the mailbox.
You could do it. Sounds like a tough spot.
All right. Okay. Items for the next agenda? I know we're gonna follow up on the fall planting. And,
Ordinance.
oh, the ordinance. And,
Should we discuss what we do in the budget? this
E
year?
newsletter.
yes,
Because didn't he want that?
yes, when did you want the budget? Oh. Hi.
Do you know when the budgets are?
typically, we're starting the budget discussion.
Right.
in June.
Okay, so that's why we were gonna put it in our June thing, yeah. Okay,
The latest. Well.
the end of August, was it the end of August last year?
Overlay some once. Early in the summer.
Yeah,
Sooner the better.
all right.
Okay. Did you ask about? I didn't know he's slipping out, he's slippery. I wanted to ask about our shirts and stuff if we were gonna.
He said just the money's there.
Oh, it's
I mean, if
there?
that money for that's there, we just have to ask them and what we, I guess, yeah.
I mentioned something, I saw him at the. I saw him at the farmer's market and I said something, because he was wearing a nice township shirt, and I was like, yeah, we need shirts like that. He goes, well, we're discussing that.
Oh,
So I don't know what that means.
but we put it in our budget.
We put in our budget. Supposedly they're supposed to get vests. They're making vests or something. He ordered vests.
Yeah, so that we can, especially when we're doing tree inventory and we have, so that yeah, so that it's,
Yeah, he said that, and they're gonna have like Velcro on the back that there'll be either shade tree, Parks and Rec, whatever, when they're out on site that they can see. He said they were working on that or something. Through the township itself.
In a staff meeting. to
Yeah.
get prices.
Yeah,
all right. And then we were just gonna get name tags too. So,
Yes.
did you want it?
yes.
Want to ask?
I'll ask Susie.
Okay, all right, okay. Right, and
And probably the
the
QR code label, the QR
Oh,
code
yeah.
tags too. Get Dan working with.
and we need the text for the website. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. The newsletter. So I have the ordinance, the fall tree planting, giveaway. Sort of.
Yeah.
The 2025 budget. Rob's gonna follow up and ask about how we get name tags or the shirts or whatever. We have the newsletter articles and et cetera, and the QR code and text for the websites and the 5 trees we picked. Okay. I think that's it. All right. Okay. Meeting adjourned. Six. See, I made it kind of short.